We're at the end of April right now, heading into May, and I know the big question on a lot of buyers' minds right now is, isn't this the worst time to buy in Florida right now, especially with prices, insurance, assessments, and hurricane season right around the corner? I know that's what a lot of people are thinking, a lot of people are talking about, and I'm getting questions like that all the time. But today I'm going to spend a lot of time addressing the questions that I've been fielding from different types of buyers and sellers and going over those questions on a ground level. Like, what am I seeing on the ground? What's going on in the market? How are things going with both sides of the story? And how is the economy, the tariffs, and the different things going on in the political arena affecting our market right here in Southwest Florida? So if you're thinking about buying as a relocation buyer, either a first-time buyer, or you're thinking about selling in the near future, I'm going to be answering a lot of the major questions you probably have going on right now. So let's get right into it. So if you guys have been watching me for any amount of time, you know that I usually go over the interest rates, and they've been fluctuating quite a bit lately. And a lot of the news that's coming out right now is stating that the Fed is talking about not lowering rates anytime soon, not until late summer at the earliest. So how is that going to affect it? And if rates did just go down, how come buyers aren't jumping in and buying like crazy? So first of all, we saw the interest rates go down to 6.875 this week, which is down 20 basis points. With that, we actually saw Lee County pending sales, which is our leading indicator right now, meaning how many buyers are putting homes under contract over the last 7 days. That's down to 349, and that's down 6.8% week over week. And then at the same time in Collier County, we saw that go down to 110, which is down 10.9%. So what is the story? What's going on here? Why are pending sales down if interest rates have been going down as well? Shouldn't buyers be taking advantage of those new rates? Again, with the Fed saying that they are not likely to cut rates soon, uncertainty is the big question here. Is what's going to happen with the housing market? Are we going to see things continue to go lower nationwide, especially here in Southwest Florida, where things have been kind of on a steady trend downward? The other big thing that's in focus right now, especially for first-time home buyers, which make up about 33% of the market usually, is affordability. The affordability is still an issue, especially here in Florida. So despite those coming down, I think the uncertainty and the affordability are the main issues why people aren't jumping into the market right now. Another question for you, especially if you're a buyer, is are sellers finally adjusting to the market conditions? And I'd say the big answer here is absolutely. So for Lee County, we have the median price at 400,000. That's down 3.7% this week. That is down a little bit, but it's down from a recent lower high from last week. So last week it was up higher. This week it's down. Next week, I assume we'll probably see it go higher again. So while it's seesawing back and forth, we are seeing the trend on a downward slope. It is just coming down very slowly. New listings are at 485. That's down 2.8%. And new listings is a leading indicator for sellers. Less sellers are putting homes on the market right now. We are coming out of season, and that's probably a good indication as to why a lot of people are deciding to forego putting their home on the market right now. We also have solds at 242. So solds is a lagging indicator. That's what happened or what was happening in the market 30 to 45 days ago. That's down 11.1%. Inventory is also at 9,294. That is pretty much flat in Lee County. So we didn't really see any change. I think it was a total change of about 4 listings active. So we did see everything level out over the last several weeks. Active inventory has been coming down, which means more homes are going off the market than are actually coming on. More buyers are buying, and pending sales have been up overall over the last couple months. Now, as we move into Collier County, the median sales price is $849,900. That's up 13.6%. Again, while that sounds good, prices are trending downward. They're just trending downward slowly, same as Lee County. But again, I think, with prices up this week, we'll probably see them come down next week slightly. So it is just making lower lows. New listings were at 158 this week for Collier County. That's up 4.6%. New listings, again, being a leading indicator for sellers. For the most part, though, Collier County has seen more new listings coming on than Lee County. Solds is at 83 this week. That's up 13.6%. Inventory in Collier County is at 3595. That's down just slightly, just a half a percentage. We're seeing Collier County's active inventory levels plateau as well. And I expect that with us being out of season and hurricane season right around the corner, we probably will see things slow down again and active inventory come down even further. We also see a lot of people are waiting for interest rates to come down because of the affordability, especially first-time home buyers, right? We're at just 6.8%, and that sounds good because we were at almost 7.5% a couple weeks ago. Now, the one thing I want to caution everyone who is a buyer on the sidelines or is thinking about buying in the near future is that if you're looking for a bottom in the market, like I said, sometimes a market crash can take 4 to 5 years to bottom out. However, by the time you start to hear the media talk about, oh, we're reaching a bottom, it's usually too late. The bottom's already been in for quite a while because they're usually a month behind with data. By that point in time, you probably still have some really good buying opportunities, but some of the incentives or the things that were available to you where you can get rate buy downs, incentives, cash bonuses, things like that, they might be already being phased out because the market is probably already picked up by then. Now, for you guys who are watching that are sellers, what does this all mean for you guys right now? So the first thing to consider is that there's no buyer frenzy right now. If you're pricing the home really well, and there is a buyer frenzy, you're probably leaving money on the table. But if you're pricing based on the last year, you're probably going to sit. The market has been declining. So, I hate to say this, but for sellers, you really need to be pricing ahead of the trends. And if the trend is down, you don't want to be pricing at market value. If you want to sell next, you have to be pricing below the market value so that you're the next one to go. So buyers out there, keep that in mind. If you know the market's coming down, you can usually put in offers that are lower because the trends are down. Back to the sellers, if you are planning to sell, you need to stage it well. Homes that are staged well tend to sell for more money and quicker. That doesn't mean you need to go out there and spend money on stagers, professional stagers or anything like that. But you do need to take the time to make sure that your home is as presentable as possible, cleaning things out, making sure floors are clean, appliances, countertops are clean, light bulbs are all matching. There's not like one out or one that's a different color, things like that. Little things like that buyers will notice right now, and they can be picky. So for you guys who are selling, make sure it's staged properly. At least get somebody to come in and take a look, maybe a professional real estate agent or a stager that you can pay a consultant fee to come in and try to use your furniture that you have or your decor that you have to make the property as presentable as possible. You have to get professional marketing right now. Don't use agents who are taking their pictures on their phone. Half of them take pictures this way and then they flip the phone this way, and it looks terrible on listings. You also need to be able to get video in there. People want to be able to see how the property shows, how it feels to walk through, or even 3D Matterports, so that people can walk through and really see and get a feel for the layout. Because most of the time, buyers' first impression is not drive-by anymore. It's not the curb appeal. It's online. Like, how does your property present online? And with so many options out there, if yours isn't, something that's like, wow, they're just going to scroll right by it and go to the next one because they can. The other big thing is you need to know your competition. You don't want to just look at what things sold for over the last 3 months. You want to look at what are things listed for around you right now, because that's who you're competing against. So you don't always have to be priced lower than everybody else, although that does obviously help. But you do need to make sure that your presentation is in line with the values that other people are listing it for, and that you stick out somehow. So whether that's offering concessions, closing costs, a rate buy down. If you have an FHA and you've only lived there for a year or two, a good option is an assumable loan. Buyer does have to pay off your equity that you have. So that's why it's only really works for 1 or 2 year owners. Anything after that, you usually have too much equity, and a first time home buyer is not going to be able to pay that. So those are some options and some things to think about offering. If you know you need updates in your house, or there's repairs, offering some kind of a credit at closing up front in your listing is another thing. Have your agent offer a home warranty at least 1 year so that the next buyer feels secure in buying that house, and they don't have to worry about things going wrong over that time period. The other big question that I get quite a bit recently is, what's better? Should I be looking at resale homes or should I be looking at the new construction? And my honest perspective on this is you probably should be looking at something that's newer, if not a brand new build, something that's newer within the last 3-5 years tops. Anything before that, the codes, they might be out of date. The house might not be built to the standard code, so you're going to be paying more for insurance premiums. Anything pre-2004, you're going to be paying pretty high premiums in general just for the homeowners, just because they are the farthest behind with codes right now. Other things to obviously take a look at is were there any claims filed recently? If you're buying something in HOA, are the reserves there? Is it a solid reserve? Are there any assessments that are coming up or maybe coming up that they know about? A couple stats to know right now: 30% of builders dropped their prices in April, and the average price cut is about 5%. If you guys watched a few weeks ago, I showed you some of the builders have cut their homes $80,000, $90,000 and are offering rate buy downs, closing cost assistance, as well as flex cash, they call it, so that you can add upgrades to the home. So the new builders are offering because they need to move the inventory, whereas a lot of sellers, they are wanting to get the price that they want. New builders have to move the inventory because they can't just let it sit. All that money is just being wasted there every time they have to hold the home. And the strongest demand right now is really coming from homes priced under $400,000. So like I said, 33% of the market is usually first-time home buyers, and most first-time home buyers are not going to want to afford a house over $400,000. Now, that also presents another thing to think about for you guys who are considering buying. Smaller homes are kind of in the highest demand right now for a lot of reasons, and one of them is population growth. The number of homes right now that are either very small families or no kids is increasing. If you are planning to buy something that's going to have a good return on investment, a smaller home may be the better option because they're going to be in higher demand for longer, with less and less people having and starting families. Now, what if you're a first-time home buyer? Should you guys even be looking right now? And I would say it really depends. I wouldn't say that you guys should be rushing out there to buy, but the affordability of homes right now is tough for anybody, really. But I would say I don't know many people who've bought a home and regretted it. They may have regretted it if they bought too much home and somebody didn't inform them of the prices of what they were going to pay, or they were hoping to only live in a place for a couple of years and then be able to sell and move up, or sell and move somewhere else. Those would be the places or the types of buyers who usually have the regrets. Rents are still rising, and I look back at my own story. I wish I bought when we first moved down here. I was hesitant because I was, one, a little bit nervous about buying the wrong home. But I wish I did buy at the time because we had a really great deal. A home, a 3-bedroom, brand new home. It was like fully loaded, and we had a chance to buy it at $200,000. And we didn't, and we waited. And the market just took off after that, and it kept going and kept going, and then it took off even more. And by the time we did purchase, we had not only spent, I think it was 75 grand in rent, but we also missed out on over $150,000 in equity gains. So, all in, we lost over 220 grand in opportunity costs because we didn't buy. And now I can't say that the market's going to take off like it did again, because I think that was hopefully that was a once in a lifetime thing. But I do think that most people regret not buying versus actually buying. But again, it all has to come down to your comfort level. Can you afford it? Is it something where if something did happen, you lose a job or you lose an income, can you still afford it comfortably? Those are the things that you should consider. And if you need help talking about it or looking over what are my options, what should I be looking at as far as if I wanted to prepare for worst case scenarios, how much can I actually afford in a worst case scenario? Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk about it, and I'm not going to push you into buying something because I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me. But I will give you the best advice that I can and point you in the direction. If you were to do it, what are your best options? Now, here's the big question that people are always asking, and this has been going on for a while, but are prices going to continue dropping? Are they going to drop more? Or are we kind of like at the bottom? Now, I can't predict anything here. Prices are still coming down. I think they will continue to come down a little bit more, but I don't think we're going to see this go down like another 10%. Something major would have to happen in the economy, some kind of black swan event. Foreclosures would have to skyrocket. Inventory would have to continue, would have to skyrocket again for some reason. But if you've been watching for the last month or two, inventory has already peaked and it's coming down, despite pendings going down and buyers not buying as much and closed sales not closing. Active inventory is still declining. If you were to be relocating in the next year or so, what should you be doing right now? I'm going to tell you what I would be doing because I relocated from the north as well. So if you're there, I feel you. The weather's probably starting to get a little warmer, but you're probably still looking at gray skies, rain all the time. It's probably not as sunny as it is down here all the time. if you are planning to buy over the next year, there's a few things that I would be doing. And one of them is really getting familiar with the areas. So whether that's going on YouTube and looking at different communities and getting a feel for the communities, looking at different cities and how they compare and contrast, you really want to do your research on where you want to live. Location is going to be number one. And a lot of people make the mistake of not really doing a lot of research. They hear things, they visit it for a little while, then they find out all the pros and cons. And usually the cons are not the things that they thought they would expect or would be getting with where they live. So first thing would be, getting familiar with the areas. And once you get familiar with the areas, the cities, the neighborhoods, things like that, look into where you want to buy, what kind of house you want, what's the lifestyle you want. Compare resales to new builds. What are the options? A lot of new builds are going to be more inland now. A lot of the coast is taken up, which is good because you won't be in a flood zone for the most part. And then also staying in touch with, boots on the ground agents, watching market updates like this, getting a feel for the stats, where are things heading in the market, pending sales versus closed sales versus new listings and active inventory. And then later on when you're a few months out, probably about 6 months or so out, that's when if you are financing, looking into what can you actually afford, how much would you be pre-approved for, getting an estimate at the very least. And then looking into, if you're a cash buyer, what are the total costs going to be? What are the hidden costs? How much the HOAs, taxes, insurance, all that stuff. So you really have an idea of what you can afford in those communities that you've already targeted and narrowed down to. And if you have questions about any of those things, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help. I don't know every single community in the area, inside and out, but I do have a pretty good handle on most of the major ones that are popular. At the very least, they will give you a good starting point to look at and consider things that you do and don't like about the communities, the HOAs, the rules and regulations, and things like that. Now, what are the biggest things that I think most people are missing right now in this market? First of all, the shift has already been underway for a while. It's pretty quiet. I think a lot of the headlines do the market injustice right now. Everybody, if you're on YouTube, if you're watching YouTube videos, the reason you click on the video is because they have some kind of doom and gloom type of a thumbnail or title, right? That sparks your curiosity. So I get it. People like negativity, they're drawn to it, and a lot of those YouTubers, that's what their thing is. They're doing it for the views. That's how they make their money. They're not actually selling houses as much. They're doing it for the YouTube views because that's the way they want to do the real estate. But I think a lot of those overdo the headlines and make people miss out on some of the key facts that the data is actually pointing to. Things are kind of leveling out right now in Southwest Florida. Like I said, prices are softening a bit, but there are a lot of opportunities right now for buyers. And the amount of buyers who are in the market is the same as it was the last 2 years and before the shutdown. So we're at an even market right now. It's just we're comparing it back to the shutdown where things were crazy. So it seems like it's a really slow market. But I hope you guys found this video helpful. I hope I answered some of your questions that are on your mind. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you join me in the next market update video. Until then, stay safe, stay positive, and more importantly, stay free.